Hello, my name is Mrs. Lowndes. I teach film and media at the school and have done so for 20 years, and I've taught all sorts of different courses within that. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about Film Studies A-Level, what we do on the course, what it requires to be a successful student of film studies, how it's broken down in terms of assessments, and what some of our students have gone on to do with film studies. So first of all, things to be aware of is that the course is run by OCR and you need a 4 in English language or a 4 in media studies at GCSE if you've done media studies or an equivalent sort of qualification. And the course is really made up of 3 distinct areas. Film history, which is one exam, which is worth 35%. And in that, you're looking at 3 different film eras and looking at how film has developed in terms of many different areas. So in terms of technology, technique, genre, narrative, expectations of the audience, all those sorts of things. And you're asked to focus in the exam on specific areas, like, for example, you might get asked about aesthetics, or you might get asked about editing, and then you're asked to look at wider issues where you compare and contrast different film eras. The other part of that exam is to look at surrealist European cinema. So you are basically comparing one film movement with another. And so that's really useful, particularly if you're someone who's doing languages or is doing geography, because a lot of what you're learning will be a crossover context. So there'll be a lot of cross-curricular stuff in that. The other exam is critical approaches to film. There's 3 sections to this. It's worth the same amount, 35%. And in it, you study documentary as a form, so how that has developed, and then specifically looking at how documentary aims to tell the truth or not through the examination of one film. Then we look at the comparison of, contemporary US and British film. So we compare Pride with The Dark Knight Rises, and we're looking there not only at things like the mise-en-scène, editing, camera, those sorts of technical aspects, but we're also considering their issues of auteurism, spectatorship, and theories around narrative and genre. And then the third section that we look at is a comparison of 3 films, and the films we look at are Hurt Locker, District 9 and Battle of Algiers, and we're looking at that in relation to the ideology of conflict. So how that film inhabits and represents a particular position about conflict and how that might be interpreted by the spectator. So it's a really meaty topic to get your teeth into, and in that particular section you are asked to talk about the 3 films and compare and contrast them. Along with that, there is also a production element. I've say short film there. You don't actually have to make the film if you don't want to. I know that some students maybe feel that their strength is in their academic writing and their ability to find meaning in text and to analyse, and that's also fine. So you can either make a short film, so you do the planning for it and make a 5-minute short film, or you can do the planning for it and you can write the screenplay for it and do some digital storyboards. So if you're someone maybe who's coming from an English perspective and you want to kind of flex those skills in terms of your writing, you can still do the coursework by all means. You just do it in a slightly different way. So I think sometimes some students who are maybe a bit scared of doing the practical, we obviously do lots of practical work anyway, so we'll develop those skills. But if you particularly want to have a go at doing a screenplay, that's also perfectly acceptable in terms of the coursework. So what it means, though, in terms of film studies compared to other A-levels, is that you only have 2 exams at the end of year 13 because you've already done 30% of the course in terms of the coursework. And the coursework is making either of those 2 products with an evaluation, of 1,500 words evaluation, which might sound like a lot, but when people start writing, they wish it was a lot more words. So, of course, we do a mixture of coursework and exams, theory and practical work. So often we'll learn about the theoretical framework. So we might be learning about how colour palette has developed and might represent something about the events, the situation, the people in the film. And then we'll get people to go away and do some creative projects around reproducing elements of that film. Obviously, there's a lot of essay writing, short essays, long ones, but it really does develop those skills in that area. But we also run workshops. We do edit workshops. So for anyone who's not edited before, you get to have a go at making a short film, very, very short piece that will enable you to have a go at it to see what your skills are, etc. And of course, everybody who does media or film has full access to the equipment in the department, so people can borrow DSLRs if you want to go away and just have a little experiment and have a play with things and see how they work. You can come up and use the studio, you can come up and use the Macs. So, you know, it's a very open house department. Anybody who does the subject, who wants to come and have a go at trying out different techniques, borrowing the lighting, etc., that's really, really encouraged. And often people don't really leave the media department. So we also, all the coursework is done via blog. So that's another skill that you develop. And obviously that might include embedding videos, annotating and doing director's commentaries on videos and things like that. And of course, there's research and analysis. All of the production work is individual, i.e. you are credited for planning, filming, editing and evaluating it individually, but you may obviously choose to have other people, friends, either inside or outside of school, to star in your work, because of course you can take home equipment and use it on the weekend and things like that. And that would be very much encouraged in order for you to progress. So we're looking really here at thinking about deeper meanings in films. It's a little bit like in English where you're analysing a text. What might the author have meant? How might that be different now to when they wrote the book? It's really very, very similar, but we're looking at it from a filmic perspective. So we're not just looking at words on a page, but we're also looking at, you know, sound, mise en scène, editing, etc. And then the wider context of that. When was this made? What were the director's thoughts? Is this a product of just a director or of the company who've made it? So you bring in some of your business elements there, ideas of being artistry. There's lots and lots of different things in film studies. So obviously there's lots of different things you're going to learn. You're going to learn how to read films, and often when you get skilled at this, you're able to start to predict the ending, because we look at different narrative theories, things like 3-act narrative structure, Roland Barthes, Enigma and action codes. And so we're looking at lots and lots of different narrative theory and applying it in context, which is why we always say you can predict the ending, because you get very used to being able to, you know, sort of start to see things in films that other people don't. Doing film studies, a health warning, will ruin your ability to enjoy films for a little bit, because you will no longer be able to suspend your disbelief. You'll be starting to pick them apart in a lot of detail. You're obviously going to learn about popular culture, and what we mean by popular culture changes over time. So what audiences wanted to see in the silent film era is very different to what audiences expect to see at the moment, and we explore why that is and how that act of being a spectator has changed. We learn about politics and ideology, so we look at how films represent the time in which they're made and the opinions of the people who make them, but also how they might contribute to developing other people's beliefs about the world as well. You learn lots of theories, and you look at lots of different areas that you would also look at in English literary criticism. You might look at in psychology. So we look at Freud and his psychoanalytical elements of film analysis. We look at Marx, who puts on obviously a socialist left-wing kind of reading of films. Bell Hooks is coming at it from a feminist perspective. So you're looking at one product, and you're looking at how different people might interpret that product according to what their belief system is. So some of the things you'll learn about is obviously different cultures and social groups, politics, lots and lots of politics in this, because films are often an artistic response to political happenings. Historical events, psychology, as I've already said, economy, because films and the way that they're made come out often of both government economic policy, if they're there for propaganda, but also the ability to gain funding for films. And obviously art, you're looking at film as artistry as well. So I think that's kind of clear what sort of links there might be to other subjects. It's going to link really well with those subjects I've mentioned, history, psychology, etc. Obviously geography and languages in terms of your European cinema aspect, business, thinking about the business of film, and particularly how the business of film is different for American Hollywood cinema to independent American cinema and things like that. It's a great way to support learning in other subjects through a creative outlet, because obviously you're going to be learning about things theoretically, but as I've said, you're also going to be kind of making different elements of it. And so film studies is really a subject that goes really well with most other subjects, because it's got those creative aspects, it's got the essay writing, it's got the research. So it's a sort of subject that can fit really well in lots of different areas, and will give you lots of contextual knowledge that you can use in other places and that you can bring from other subjects. So you're going to learn these topics. Really, it's going to give you a lot more of a deeper meaning to what is on the screen. You know, as I say, it's health warning, you are going to ruin films for yourself for a little bit of time, but you are also going to kind of develop an even better meaning from the films, and get a deeper experience from watching them. So obviously we watch a lot of films, and we don't just watch films that are on the set text, we watch a range of films, and there's an expectation that you'll probably watch at least a film a week, not necessarily in the lesson. So, you know, you have to be prepared to want to watch a lot of films, and also those films may be in another language, they may be in black and white, they may be really weird. So you have to be prepared to have a very open mind in film studies. It's not just going to be watching Star Wars. You know, we're going to be looking at all sorts of crazy stuff that you might think, oh, I don't understand this. This is just really odd. That's the idea, is to start to develop what you know about the world around you beyond, you know, our relatively small popular culture 21st century world that we live in. So that's just a bit of an outline of the kind of different approaches that we take to the course. So this is in a normal year, this is how we'd look at it. So One Teacher teaches paper 1, which is introducing the kind of concepts and looking at that film history across 3 different papers. And within that, we usually do a trip to the film museum so that we can have a look at kind of the equipment that's being used, the differences in kind of special effects availability, stunts, all that sort of thing. And in the other paper, the critical approaches paper, we start by looking at kind of the way into films that we might be aware of, the contemporary US and British film, and we do a trip to the IMAX for that, because we have to look at digital projection and the viewing experience. So we go to the IMAX, and we usually go to 2 other cinemas, so people can understand how the experience of being a spectator is different according to the cinema environment. In the second term, so January to Easter, film history is just developed in more depth there, actually exploring what you've learnt generally and that what you've made into sort of little practice films by specifically applying it to the set film, should I say. And paper 2 is looking at documentary and looking at how, you know, documentary is really popular again at the moment, because Netflix, which although is a television provider, shows a lot of things that would have traditionally been classed as film. Netflix has masses of documentaries on, and so documentaries have come back around in the cycle of genre popularity. So it's a really interesting topic to look at, you know, to look at film documentaries as opposed to television documentaries. And we explore ideas about how documentaries are there to tell the truth, how they're there to represent events as they happened. And then in term 3, you make a documentary, so that then you kind of can put into practice what you've been learning about documentary techniques. And that's not marked in terms of, it's not coursework. It's another good chance for you to cement what you know by doing, but also it's a really good opportunity for you to use the equipment again, and also to start thinking about, do I want to do the short film option for my non-examined assessment, or do I want to do script writing? And then we start obviously on the surrealist cinema, looking at theorists around European surrealist cinema. So that kind of shows you a bit of a romp through what we do. We also do what we call Orange Book work, just because it started in an Orange Book, and each week we do a film crit. So we do some sort of discussion about a film outside of these ones that we study. So it might be a film that changed my life. It might be a film that represents young people. It might be a film where sound is really important. So each week you are required to offer some form of film criticism, and that's to develop those sort of critical faculties that are really important, and that, you know, universities are looking at for various different courses. What do you need to be successful in film studies? You do need to have a really good level of written English, because it is 70% of the assessment is done through essay writing. So having an ability to express yourself clearly on paper is really important. Being able to contribute to debates. So we do a lot of the work that we do is discussion based, and people offering their opinions and often not agreeing with other people's opinions. And that's really important that you can, I think that's further down, have an open mind so that someone can have a completely different opinion from you, and that's also okay. It's really helps if you ever got an interest in the world around you, because films are often reflecting or responding to events in the world, and the more you know about, that's actually going to be really helpful for you to understand what the film's trying to do. Obviously, a level of creativity is important because you've got to make something, whether that's a script or whether that's the finished product. You need to be quite self-motivated because you are required to, watch films in your own time that are off the syllabus. So you have to really want to watch films and be interested in them. And obviously a willingness to improve knowledge on the topics being studied. Some things won't grab you as much as others, and you've got to ride with it and say, okay, this is a black and white film in another language from 100 years ago. Let me see what I can get out of this that I can bring to other aspects of the course. So it's a really, really interesting course. It's got so much variety to it. You are going to, see so many different types of texts. And experience, a lot of understanding about the world around you, which is one of the things that universities like about it, is that actually if a student goes to do another course, whether that be in science or whether it be humanities or another art subject, students generally have a really good grounding in what's happened in the last 100 years politically, what's happened in Europe, kind of different perspectives and how to look at things from different angles. And they're all really important skills, even outside of film studies. So some skills that you're going to develop, obviously we do a lot of talking, so you're going to develop your communication skills, your presentation skills. We do a fair bit of research where you're going to go away and do an independent research project, maybe about director, maybe about the finance behind a film, or how film projection has developed. Obviously you're going to develop your practical skills over the 2 years. Your social skills. We usually have really, really good groups who are, even if people are shy at first, people feel comfortable to express their opinion. And I think that's really important. And they're skills that you're going to need for when you go to university, where you're working with people you don't know. And obviously skills of analysis, skills of being able to bring in theorist ideas to support your own, or to often using their ideas and then bringing in your own examples to show how their ideas are wrong. So they're all going to be really important. Lots of people do say to me, is it a proper A level though? Well, all A levels are equal to each other. So apart from courses where they're wanting, like you've got to have certain things for being a doctor, for example, although you could still do film studies potentially, depending on your combination. It is the equivalent of any other A level. You can see a lot of the skills in it and a lot of high level academic writing skills in it. And that's why, like, even Oxford and Cambridge accept it, because what they care about is what your mix of A levels is. And if you're going to go and do like a language course, or you're going to go and do a humanities course or English or something like that, they're going to know that a lot of the skills that you've covered in film are going to be absolutely ideal. And of course, all universities offer some element of film studies, whether that's within a language context, the humanities context, or on their own. So as I say, a lot of employees in unis like film A level because it shows a range of skills that not all traditional A levels have, because it's not just the essay writing, it's also the critical independent thinking and the production side of things. So I think that's a really interesting thing to consider. Although we've only run film studies in its current form for 3 years, so our students currently, who our last set of students, are at university, and of them, a couple of them went to do art subjects, some of them went to do kind of creative writing and film, or creative writing and cinema and drama, so those sorts of combinations, and 2 of them went to do film. But overall, in terms of as a media department, we've had students go off and do every aspect of media you could imagine: digital media, visual effects, film, set design, script writing, filmmaking, directing, working on TV productions, acting. So, we've got a really good calibre of students who've gone off and done lots of things, and a lot of those students are very keen then to come back and work with us and work with young people and mentor them. So we're really, really fortunate in that sense of having really good contacts with previous students, and with various kind of work experience and apprenticeship schemes as well. So You know, film studies would open a lot of different opportunities for people, not just within just doing film. You know, we've had people who do film studies a couple of years ago. I think someone did film studies and then they went off and did like a bio chemistry degree. You know, so it's not just, oh, I've got to have all sciences to do science, or I've got to have all arts to do art. You know, often a very traditional thing that people, I had loads of people do it at one point who did like media and film, media and maths. So, you know, it depends on where your areas of strength are. The thing with this is, you know, if you love film, or if you think that you've got the potential to really love watching lots of different films and analysing them and understanding the world around you, this is probably a really, really excellent subject for you. So I hope that's given you a little bit of an overview of the subject. If you want to know any more about it, please do email the sixth form at chadwellacademy.org.uk, and they will pass any questions that you have on to me. And obviously have a look at the bridging materials on the website. Okay, thanks very much.